Family's incredible journey with a mysterious police dog. What the vet discovered will shock you. Ethan had always felt like a ghost, wandering the halls of his own home. His brothers were stars, one an aspiring firefighter, the other a straight-A student destined for a scholarship. And then there was Ethan, simply wandering in their shadows. Every evening he'd listen to their tales of glory, while his father's hard-working hands painted a grime-streaked history in the local garage. His grandfather, a service veteran, filled the room with stories of heroism and honor, leaving Ethan feeling like a mere footnote in a tome of greatness. The adrenaline-fueled highs of his family's expectations were a daunting mountain he felt he could never scale. As the sun dipped low behind the Rockies, Ethan decided to take a shortcut home through the woods. The vibrant colors of dusk painted a world that was otherwise unremarkable. But on this day, the flora whispered secrets that he longed to understand. That's when he spotted something unusual, a stray dog meandering near the edge of town. With shaggy fur and soulful eyes, the police dog seemed lost, both physically and in spirit. A sudden connection sparked within Ethan, igniting a yearning for acceptance he had been craving. Maybe I can train him, he thought desperately. Maybe this is my chance to prove I belong. Teaching Ace could not only provide him an anchor, but perhaps a way to shine. Yet, a storm churned within him. What if he failed just like he feared he always would? As he began to bond with the dog, every little success was tainted with the nagging feeling that maybe he was wasting his time. What if Ace ran off, or worse, wasn't cut out to be a police dog? Each question clawed at him, threatening to tear apart the fragile thread of hope he had so carefully woven. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As days passed, Ethan and Ace became a duo. The townsfolk eyed them with skepticism, murmuring about years of unresolved crimes. Did they even have the right to be a part of the conversation? It stung. His family's dismissal quietly echoed in his mind, haunting him during lonely moments. Their unwavering belief in Ethan's brothers made him wonder if he was simply seen as less worthy. Just as Ethan dared to feel like he had taken a step forward, the local police, especially a brash officer who seemed hell-bent on maintaining control, dismissed their efforts, further fanning the embers of doubt flickering in Ethan's heart. What if he wasn't cut out for heroics? What if Ace would be lost to the very town they were trying to save? Then Ace's unusual behavior surfaced, sniffing at corners, growling at shadows, and Ethan felt both fear and determination brewing inside him. Was it just the dog being weird, or could there be something deeper? As he stumbled into this whirlwind of uncertainty, his mind raced, a cacophony of guilt and frustration. With every unresolved mystery, he questioned his whole identity. Would he be the one to take charge and prove his worth? Or would he simply be another forgotten name, another shadow alongside the dog that now seemed to whisper secrets he was too scared to hear? With the stakes growing higher, every moment felt like a ticking time bomb, waiting to explode into chaos. Would he step up and claim the recognition he desperately wanted, or would he allow his fears to drown him in this seemingly endless dark? The ground beneath him shifted, and with it rose the question of who he truly was, leaving him teetering on the edge of something far greater than he ever anticipated. Ethan awoke the following morning to Ace's insistent nudging, the dog's brown eyes gleaming with a mix of anticipation and urgency. Today felt different. The unease that had gripped him the previous night morphed into a simmering resolve. He could no longer stand on the periphery of his life and watch others succeed while he faltered. Ace needed him, and for the first time, he felt that perhaps he needed Ace too. With a firm mental shake, Ethan gathered a few basic training supplies, a whistle, some treats, and a worn book on training methods he had found in his father's garage. They had to be ready for anything, especially considering the strange behaviors Ace had begun to display. The idea of Ace potentially sensing something Ethan couldn't was thrilling, yet daunting, as it magnified his insecurities about being competent. Taking a deep breath, he led Ace out into the sun-drenched backyard, where the remnants of winter lay clinging on the edges of newly sprouting flowers. The fresh air imbued him with cautious optimism. Today would be a day of growth, not just for Ace, but for himself. "Come on, let's do this," he whispered to Ace, the dog's ear perking up at his command. They started with basic obedience trials: sit, stay, and fetch. To Ethan's surprise, Ace navigated the commands with an agility that made his heart swell. Each successful command felt like a small triumph, boosting Ethan's confidence with each whistle blow. However, beneath the surface of this budding camaraderie lurked the nagging doubt. What if this was a temporary ascent, soon to crash into a valley of failure? Each praise aimed at Ace mirrored a desperate plea for his own validation. The townsfolk remained skeptical, and Ethan could practically hear their murmurs slithering into his thoughts, whispering that he wasn't enough. As he trained Ace through the morning sun, they stumbled upon an unexpected challenge. Ace began to bark and growl, fixating on a distant cluster of trees at the edge of the property. Ethan hesitated. Was this instinct, or simply a manifestation of fear? Sweat prickled at his brow as he grasped for an answer amidst a storm of uncertainty. Would he confront this, or retreat as he so often had in moments of distress? Determination overrode doubt, and he approached Ace, midnight black fur bristling with intensity. "What is it, boy?" he murmured, kneeling down and trying to meet Ace's gaze. A sudden spark ignited within him. He realized this was his moment, not just to control an animal, but to seize the reins of his own life. Every half-hearted attempt to fit into the mold of a lesser brother would remain merely that unless he broke free of the chains of expectation that had bound him for so long. "Let's check it out," he said, voice steady but heart racing. Ace turned to him as if confirming the partnership was real. Together, they stepped toward the trees, each stride building a surge of adrenaline within Ethan. What awaited them could be a mere woodland creature or something that would challenge the very fabric of their newfound bond. As they ventured deeper, the trees began to close in around them, shadows shifting and dancing. The juxtaposition of fear and exhilaration coursed through Ethan, affirming a truth he had long ignored. He could forge his own path. And then as they reached the thicket, a sudden rustle startled both Ethan and Ace. The abrupt sound shattered the uneasy silence, breaking his concentration. The dog's growl reverberated through the air as Ethan's heart thundered against his ribcage. What was this mystery that called them so deep into the woods? The moment hung thick with tension as Ethan stood at the precipice of discovery. What awaited on the other side could either strengthen their bond or unravel everything he had dared to hope for. Ethan held his breath, frozen in place as Ace's growl filled the air, the steady cadence of it vibrating through the ground beneath him. Panic threatened to close around him, but he fought for clarity, recognizing that this moment could define him, could carve out a new way in his life that he had never dared to imagine before. The trees loomed, shadows thickening, and the sense of foreboding lurked just out of sight. "Stay close, Ace," he whispered, more to comfort himself than to command the dog. With an uncertain but decisive motion, he crept forward, drawn by a mix of curiosity and an unfamiliar urge to confront whatever lay waiting in the unknown. Each step felt like an acknowledgement of the person he wanted to become, a man who faced challenges rather than running from them. The rustling grew louder, and Ethan couldn't help but question what pulled at Ace's instincts. What did his dog know that he did not? Anxiety began to bubble again, but instead of crumbling under it, Ethan channeled it into focus. Wouldn't it be better to understand this fear rather than retreat? Suddenly, the underbrush parted slightly, revealing a flash of movement that made both Ace and Ethan halt. It was a small creature, darting through the foliage, but the sight only heightened the tension. It sparked a revelation within Ethan. He could either let anxiety guide him back towards solitude or face it head-on, to truly find out who he was meant to be. Ace, sensing a shift in Ethan's demeanor, quieted his growls, cocking his head as if waiting for a signal. Ethan knelt beside him, and in that moment, he decided to lead. "Let's go back," he instructed, feeling an odd mix of authority and vulnerability. With Ace at his side, he turned back towards the path leading home, the bond between them strengthening with each tentative yet determined step. Once they emerged from the trees, The sunlight wrapped around them like a warm embrace. Ethan allowed himself to breathe deeply, reassessing the earlier insecurities, the whispers in his mind, the doubts from people who didn't understand him or Ace. What if they were right? The thought flickered momentarily, but he refused to let it anchor him down. A blooming awareness of his potential pulsed within him. The training began to take on a new energy, a partnership forged in the fires of uncertainty. Ethan filled their afternoons with more challenges, pushing Ace's limits while simultaneously exploring his own capacities as a trainer and companion. Each click of the whistle and each treat given was layered with fresh resolve. Ethan found himself looking forward to their shared moments, where success was measured not just in commands, but in shared resilience. As they practiced, Ethan began to reflect on his life beyond the yard, recalling the doubts he once felt in the presence of his family, particularly the overbearing expectations that accompanied his brother's seemingly effortless success. But rather than succumb to jealousy or bitterness, he sought to define success on his terms. Ace had instilled a sense of urgency within him, a beckoning to pursue something greater, not just in training, but in his career aspirations and overall sense of self. Months had passed since he first picked up that training manual. It was becoming clear that this was his way forward, through challenges and discomfort. Each session helped him confront not only Ace's instincts, but his own. Yet beneath this new wave of self-assuredness lingered the question, could he push himself beyond the known? With each passing day, the need arose to assess deeper connections, setting sights beyond the backyard. He realized that embracing the tumultuous journey also meant building affiliations outside his immediate circle of comfort. Who and what could further elevate his newfound confidence? As he mulled over these thoughts, another question nagged at him. Would the townsfolk ever see beyond their preconceived notions of who he was? The following morning dawned clear and promising, and as he prepared for another training session, Ethan's resolve deepened. All at once, he felt the thrill of the unknown and the weight of possibility. Had he been too complacent to pursue the greater calls of his aspirations? Driven by determination, Ethan resolved to visit the local training school, not just as a participant, but as someone willing to learn and challenge himself. What awaited him there, beyond the familiar voices of doubt? Would the journey ahead solidify his newfound identity or unravel everything he was building towards? With excitement and trepidation vibrating through him, he stepped outside, Ace mirroring his eagerness. As they approached the training center, Ethan understood he was no longer just a man training his dog. He was a man intent on transforming his life. The training school stood before Ethan like a threshold to a different reality, a sanctuary for those seeking guidance in the art of canine companionship. Instinctively, he paused at the entrance, anxiety slipping back into the periphery of his mind. The vibrant energy emanating from inside contrasted sharply with his previous solitude, igniting a mixture of excitement and self-doubt. "Come on, Ace," he said, steeling his resolve. Entering felt as if he were stepping into a new chapter of his life, one where he might finally break free from the specters of comparison and insecurity. The fresh, pungent scent of dog and the muted bustle of chatter welcomed him, creating an environment filled with possibilities. Inside, a variety of training sessions were underway, each handler working their dog with focused determination. Some trainers were issuing commands firmly, others were gently coaxing their companions through obstacles. Observing their interactions, Ethan felt a pang of recognition. The journey of navigating hurdles, be they social or behavioral, mirrored his own path. Ethan's gaze settled on a trainer named Laura, who commanded the attention of her class with an easy confidence. She was in her 30s, with a calm demeanor that seemed to radiate knowledge. Curiosity piqued. He watched as she led a pack of eager dogs, her voice blending authority and warmth. "I want to be like that," he whispered to Ace, an impulsive thought that sparked within him a yearning for mastery. But it quickly dimmed under the weight of doubt. What if he couldn't connect with others? What if they judged him for the slow progress he had made? Pushing through the anxiety, he approached Laura once the session concluded. "Hi, I'm Ethan. I want to learn more about training," he said, the tremor in his voice threatening to undercut his intentions. "A dog handler, huh? A brave move to step into the lion's den," Laura remarked with a smile that invited him closer rather than pushing him away. But let me tell you, it's not just about commands. It's about understanding the partnership, what your dog needs as much as what you desire. Her words resonated deeply within him, and a spark ignited. That's exactly why I'm here. I want to build a better connection with Ace. With each exchange, Ethan realized he wasn't just seeking training techniques. He was yearning for validation of his emotions and aspirations. Oh, and embrace the failures. They are part of the process, Laura added knowingly, her expression grounded yet encouraging. In training, as in life, it's through the challenges we discover who we truly are. The weight of her insight settled gently upon Ethan's shoulders. He could see it clearly now. His metamorphosis could not thrive cocooned within the confines of the familiar. Boldly embracing his needs meant redefining his narrative. He wasn't just working against Ace's instincts. They were two intertwined journeys, strengthening each other through every stumble and triumph. Determination mounted within him as he enrolled in the foundational classes, recognizing this was only the beginning. Each lesson would challenge his patience, creativity, and emotional fortitude. Even now, as doubts clawed at his confidence, he felt a foundation strengthening beneath him, a newly solidified sense of purpose driving him forward. Over the next few weeks, the connection between Ethan and Ace deepened, sculpted by mutual learning and trust. They tackled obstacles, both physical and emotional, each session revealing more about themselves than he could ever have anticipated. He marveled at how Ace promptly offered affection when Ethan faltered, as if mirroring his own experience, encouraging him to push through tight spaces of discomfort. As their partnership thrived, Ethan began to contemplate other areas of his life. What friendships had dwindled in the face of fear? What awaited him in avenues of personal growth he had previously ignored? Each question nudged him closer to discovering his true self. But just as he gathered steam, a sudden realization struck, a glaring insecurity within the might of his aspirations. Would mastering training techniques effectively shield him from the doubts of his past? How could he navigate his relationship with his brother who thrived in a similar space? The knowledge that mastery wouldn't be an antidote to personal conflict lingered uncomfortably at the cusp of his awareness. As those thoughts coiled around him, he felt both vulnerable and invigorated, a paradox unfolding within. Perhaps the greatest challenge had just begun. With Ace by his side, he would need to confront the roots of his fears head-on. The journey of understanding himself had no neatly defined endpoints. Setting sights beyond just training meant engaging with lingering familial expectations head-on. With trepidation brewing, Ethan sat at the edge of the mat, engaged in preparing for battles both internal and external. The moment had come to reflect on relationships that mattered, a harrowing step into the unknown, rife with questions about identity and acceptance. How could Ethan navigate through this intricate weave of family ties while continuing to forge his own path? Would he stand resolute against the shadows of comparison, or would he falter as doubts resurfaced? As he pondered the answers, one immutable truth echoed in his heart. The journey forward, not just as a dog handler but as a human, was only just beginning. Ethan stood on the training mat, vibrations of uncertainty coursing through him. With Ace at his side, he could feel the weight of expectation. Inwardly, it felt as though he was caught in a web spun of his own anxieties. How was this new pursuit supposed to affect his relationship with his brother Jake, who had always towered over him in terms of accomplishments? One session transitioned into the next, yet with each interaction, the pulse of comparison resurfaced, poised to overshadow every tentative step he took. Jake had a knack for garnering attention, effortlessly connecting with the dogs and their handlers, while Ethan felt as if he were still learning to find his voice. Though each moment spent with Ace brought a surge of joy, the quiet venom of inadequacy crept into the corners of his mind. Could he ever truly measure up? Remember, it's about progress, Laura reminded him during a particularly intense session, her voice cutting through the fog. It's not a competition. Just focus on what you and Ace can accomplish together. Progress. The word rang like a bell, yet what did it really mean for Ethan? Was it a straightforward path or a series of unveiled layers of complex emotions? In a moment of impulsivity, he decided to open up, sharing his troubling perspectives with Laura. I find myself constantly questioning if I'm making the right choices, not just with Ace, but in my life. My brother, he seems to excel in everything. He watched her expression shift toward empathy. It was as if she could see through the chaos and apprehension swirling within him. You're not your brother. Your journey is distinct. Each handler has a unique bond with their dog, and so it should be with you and Ace. Harness your individuality. It's where the power lies. Ethan felt something within shift as he absorbed her words. Perhaps understanding himself and his connection with Ace could equip him with the tools to reframe his relationship with Jake. But how? As the doubt ebbed slightly, he envisioned a bold course forward, one that meant not merely training Ace but facing his brother with honesty. Returning to class the next week, something in Ethan felt different. There was a fire in his chest, a desire to tap into that uniqueness Laura had highlighted. He watched Ace, once just a bundle of instinctual impulses, transform into a reflection of his aspirations. Every little improvement presented an opportunity for him to confront his fears, not just for himself, but also for Ace's sake. Ethan took a deep breath, focusing his energy into instructing Ace. Their practice shapes like sit and stay no longer felt like mere commands. They were the foundation of their connection, echoing a new promise to each other. But in carving that newfound pathway, he recognized a necessity that loomed larger than mere training techniques. Drawing courage from his evolving relationship with Ace, he set an intention: to talk to Jake. The thought was both exhilarating and paralyzing. What would he even say? As class wrapped up that day, a challenge loomed. The conversations with Jake would have to happen soon. The uncertainty of their relationship weighed heavily. Each interaction could unravel years of miscommunication or reinforce a bond he had longed to cultivate. That evening, Ethan sat with his thoughts spiraling around the conversation that needed to occur. Ace lay beside him, the dog's rhythmic breathing a contrast to his own racing heart. How would Jake perceive his determination to redefine himself? Would he welcome it or resist it? Would Ethan's desire for authenticity create discord or foster understanding? Was he prepared to confront the tangled emotions underlying their relationship? Gradually, the questions crystallized in his mind, coalescing into a single challenge. The stakes had never felt so high, and for the first time, Ethan embraced the shadows of anxiety. He understood there was no definitive answer, only the understanding that initiating that pivotal conversation could potentially unlock a new chapter in his life. The following morning, he glanced at Ace, resolute in his choice. It was time for the confrontation he dreaded yet deeply desired. With a firm nod, he felt determination rejuvenate in his core. But would Jake be ready to hear him? Each step drew him closer to a moment that could irrevocably change their dynamic. The prospect was daunting. The air hung heavy with tension. As he prepared to engage, Ethan wondered if he could unearth truths about their relationship, or if he would once again dissolve into the fabric of comparison. Ethan stood at the threshold of his brother's house, the smell of fresh coffee wafting enticingly through the open door. The want for connection wrestled with the fear of rejection, an internal tug-of-war echoing the essence of their relationship. Clenching Ace's leash, he inhaled deeply, seeking the courage that had propelled him through countless dog training sessions. "Just be honest," he muttered to himself, his voice barely above a whisper. The rhythmic pull of Ace, eager to explore the familiar scents, broke his concentration momentarily. Keeping the dog close, Ethan reminded himself of the bonds he intended to strengthen today, with Ace but mainly with Jake. As he entered the house, he was greeted warmly by Jake, whose bright demeanor radiated confidence. This friendly facade, he noticed, held a weight that enveloped him like fog. They exchanged casual pleasantries, but the superficiality gnawed at Ethan. How easy it seemed for Jake to glide through life, his charm a shield against unspoken tension. Ethan set Ace down, the golden retriever casually exploring every nook and cranny, oblivious to the seismic shifts occurring around him. Jake poured them both coffee, the sound of liquid filling the mugs blending into an awkward silence. The moment lingered, heavy and charged, urging Ethan to take the plunge. "Kay, can we talk?" His voice faltered, cracking slightly under the pressure. Jake turned, eyebrows slightly raised. "Sure. What's up?" The casual tone didn't elude Ethan. He could sense the undercurrents of concern. Was Jake prepared for an honest conversation? It's about us. I've been meaning to reach out more. The admission hung between them like a bitter truth. The initial intention slipped away, replaced by fears of Jake's reaction. What do you mean? There was genuine curiosity in Jake's voice, but Ethan felt the barrier of their history. I mean, our relationship. I've struggled with feeling like the underdog, you know? He wasn't prepared for the flood of vulnerability, but there was clarity in admitting that discomfort. It's unsettling to see you shine while I grapple with self-doubt. Jake's expression shifted. Surprise gave way to understanding. I had no idea you felt that way. I thought we were doing okay. The realization of Jake's ignorance stung. What if this honesty could dissolve a long-standing rift? I know. I haven't been clear about it. I'm not aiming for a rivalry, but I really want to step out from your shadow. The confession was raw, a revelation birthed from months of grappling with their fraught relationship. Jake paused, the weight of Ethan's words settling in. You have to understand, I never meant for it to feel like that. I've always admired your dedication. A flicker of relief washed over Ethan, but it quickly led to a yet deeper realization. It's not just admiration I seek. It's the chance to be genuinely seen for who I am. I want to grow into my own space, not just yours. A contemplative silence filled the room as the truth permeated the air. Jake's brow furrowed as he processed the depth of Ethan's emotions, his brother appearing for the first time not as a rival, but as a person grappling with his identity. Ethan, you don't need to measure yourself by my accomplishments. Let's figure this out together, Jake finally responded, sincerity tightening around his words. Yet, was this enough for Ethan? A blooming sense of hope, tangled with lingering insecurities, and he knew this path held challenges still untold. Despite this moment of understanding, Ethan felt a new fear creeping in, a realization that confronting Jake was only the first step. What did it mean to carve out his independence in the context of their brotherly bond? Would Jake genuinely support this journey, or would their dynamic shift in unforeseen ways? Across the living room, Ace settled down with a heavy sigh, his presence a gentle reminder of the journey ahead. Ethan recognized that the earnest conversation prompted more than just an exploration of brotherly love. It was a doorway into a world of self-discovery interwoven with the complexities of belonging. As the coffee cooled between them, the potential for genuine change hung tantalizingly in the air. Yet the path was still veiled in uncertainty. Ethan felt the gravity of a decision pending, the need to challenge the newfound vulnerability, the determination to ensure this wasn't merely a conversation where the truth faded into ordinary life again. Could he navigate the intricacies of his own aspirations while maintaining that burgeoning honesty with Jake? Each answer he sought portended a next conversation that lingered in the shadows, whispering across the cracks of their relationship. A shiver of anticipation coursed through him. The real work was just beginning. He braced himself for realities yet to unfold, knowing that maintaining this momentum demanded as much courage as fostering the relationship he both craved and feared. The stakes felt higher now than before, and he could see remnants of old fears slithering back into view. Would Ethan muster the courage to refine this conversation further into action, or would he stumble back into familiar patterns? And what revelations about himself still awaited on this untraveled road? Ethan's mind raced as he felt the weight of both hope and trepidation settle in. This newfound openness with Jake had cracked open a door that had long remained shut. Would he have the strength to walk through it? The moment was teetering on a precipice. He could feel the tension spiraling around them like a taut wire ready to snap. Let's, outline what that could look like, Ethan suggested, surprised at the steadiness of his own voice. It surprised him that he was invoking a desire to plan, to work something tangible out of the abstract unease that had plagued him. Jake looked curiously at him, his features softening as he replied, I'm all ears. How can I support you? The sincerity behind his brother's words resonated deeply within Ethan, urging him to constructively engage with this moment. Ethan took a breath, his heart racing with the challenge ahead. I want to set some boundaries, you know? I need to focus on my own goals and find ways to communicate my progress without feeling less than. It means a lot to not just be seen, but heard. As Jake nodded slowly, Ethan sensed a mixture of anxiety and excitement. This was so different from their typical exchanges, which often hovered over the surface. He had a chance now to delve deeper, to inspire change. Boundaries make sense, Ethan. I've never felt like I had to pull you up with me, but I guess I understand how it could feel that way, Jake admitted. The revelation stunned Ethan. Did they both exist in their separate worlds, altering perceptions of the other? It's easy to misunderstand, Ethan conceded, especially when we were raised to compete for approval. It's there, just beneath the surface. In this rare moment of clarity, he recognized that both their perceptions had been tinted by childhood echoes of comparison. The shadows of expectation loomed, but perhaps for the first time, they could break the cycle. I need to prioritize my training, with Ace and the others to prove that I can stand on my own, Ethan added, words tumbling forward in a rush. I'm ready to explore new techniques and deepen my understanding of canine behavior, but I need to do it in my own way. No more second-guessing my choices because I'm afraid of our dynamic shifting. The acknowledgement sparked something within him, a flicker of determination he hadn't truly embraced before. Could he take charge of his narrative? Jake, watching him intently, seemed ready to engage fully in this transformation. I think it's admirable, Jake said, his admiration stitching a thread of confidence into Ethan's resolve. You've always been passionate about it. Let's find a way to celebrate your achievements even amidst the usual chaos. Ethan smiled, warmth rising up inside him. Each word was a step away from uncertainty. It felt exhilarating, like nothing he'd felt while juggling the weight of self-doubt. Yet as they discussed specifics, a familiar pang of fear tugged at Ethan's heart. The question that had haunted him returned. What if he didn't measure up? What if he put in all this work, but still fell short of what he envisioned? The pressure of expectation, whether it came from Jake or himself, hovered like a specter, taunting him to retreat. Ethan, are you still with me? Jake's voice broke through his reverie. Ethan realized they had been planning their next steps without truly addressing the inner turmoil that threatened to derail him. Yeah, I'm just thinking I need to confront my own demons. Vulnerability enveloped him again, and this time, he let it linger instead of fighting it. Which ones? Jake asked gently, concern mingling with curiosity. The ones that tell me I'll never be good enough, that I'm only defined by your success. The admission hung in the air, fraught with the tension of unspoken fears. Jake shifted, his expression morphing into one of sincerity. I don't want you to feel that way. We can tackle those fears together, you know? I'll help however I can. Ethan met his brother's gaze, the sincerity tangible. It wasn't just about fighting the past but learning to handle the insecurities together. He was pushing toward a new terrain, one that demanded not only courage, but also openness. As they moved into the details of his training plans, Ethan felt the burgeoning energy of commitment filling the room. But amidst the excitement, shadows of doubt still lurked at the periphery of his thoughts, refusing to be fully exercised. Could he truly break the cycle and separate his identity from their history without losing a vital part of their bond? He knew that digging deeper into these discussions would reveal more than just his truths. They would demand that he face the very essence of who he had become. The moment felt electric, charged with the potential for both triumph and failure. With Ace at his feet, who had always been his unpaid therapist, Ethan understood that he was on the cusp of a journey fraught with danger, but also immense potential. As they continued to strategize, a new question loomed just beyond reach. What would be the first real test of this newfound dynamic, and would he bend or break under the pressure of change? Ethan found himself standing in the backyard, the scent of freshly cut grass mingling with the anticipation that hung in the air. Ace bounded around him, tail wagging, amplifying the excitement coursing through Ethan's veins. This was no ordinary day. He had genuinely committed to changing the narrative of his life. He felt a flicker of pride mixed with an anxiety-driven hum beneath his calm facade. He was ready to dive into the unknown. Pulling his sleeves up, Ethan recalled their earlier discussion, the boundaries he envisioned, the freedom he craved. He envisioned Ace at the center of his training, pushing the limits of canine communication and behavior exploration. But this bravado was tempered by a burgeoning fear. What if this step alone wouldn't be enough? The nagging doubts swirled like autumn leaves caught in a windstorm, whispering reminders of inadequacy and uncertainty. Taking a deep breath, Ethan directed Ace to a spot in the yard marked with cones. He grabbed his training gear, hands trembling slightly as he set up the course. The rhythmic clinking of the metal equipment punctured the silence, and with each sound, he felt a wave of determination washing over him. This was his chance, to carve out a space where he belonged on his own merits. "Let's do this, buddy," he said, kneeling to meet Ace's bright eyes. The dog sat patiently, an eager pupil awaiting instruction. Ethan realized the beauty of this moment. It wasn't solely about mastering skills. It was about reinstating his self-worth amidst the quiet chaos of his thoughts. As they began, Ace darted through the cone course with grace, his movements fluid and energetic. Ethan dissected each action, mentally mapping out ways to improve their communication. The initial exhilaration was intoxicating. Praise poured from his lips, a mix of firm commands and playful encouragement. Yet it wasn't long before doubts crept back in. Was Ace responding because he was trained well, or because he felt Ethan's pressure? The internal tug-of-war threatened to pull him down as Ace freely navigated the course. "You deserve better," Ethan muttered under his breath, guilt rumbling in his chest for imposing his insecurities on his four-legged ally. As if sensing the shift, Ace paused, looking back as if to offer reassurance. Ethan took a moment, kneeling again to stroke Ace's fur. "I need to get it together. You're not here to validate me." This realization felt bittersweet. It meant accepting responsibility for his feelings, something that had always felt too heavy to bear alone. The next phase of training called for tackling a trick Ace had struggled with previously, a complex retrieval task. It required not just practiced commands, but also understanding Ace's unique learning style. Ethan felt a surge of anxiety, questioning whether he could foster that mutual understanding without slipping back into self-doubt. "Let's try it differently this time," he murmured, adopting a softer tone. The change was subtle, yet it shifted the atmosphere. Ace responded to Ethan's newfound focus with enthusiasm, catching the ball thrown across the yard. The triumphant bark that followed echoed in Ethan's heart, lighting a spark he hadn't felt in ages. That moment, the thrill of success, intertwined with the understanding of true partnership, was pivotal. Could he still control his fears while embracing the lessons each session would teach him? This commitment to growth demanded self-exploration he'd long avoided. No longer shackled by the comparative narratives of his past with Jake, Ethan realized his journey was uniquely his own. He needed allies not in competition, but as partners. With each successful session, he felt a clarity forming within. It was less about what he achieved and more about what he learned in the process, both about Ace and about himself. As the sun sank lower in the sky, casting a golden hue over the yard, Ethan's sense of accomplishment surged. But at the back of his mind lurked the unaddressed fears he had unmasked. What would happen when he faced true obstacles outside this safe space? What if this newfound confidence crumbled when tested against real-world challenges? He needed a plan, a system of checks to keep him grounded as he navigated the unpredictable journey ahead. The first spark of genius ignited within him. He would document each session, each epiphany, detailing what worked and what didn't. This trail of evidence could serve as his beacon, a tangible reminder of change and progress. The thought solidified in his mind as he ruffled Ace's fur one last time that evening, and the two of them stared into the twilight, ready for the trials ahead. Yet, as the gentle night settled, Ethan felt another wave of uncertainty rise. What if the documentation exposed not just progress but glaring limitations? As doubts bubbled to the surface, one question lingered. Would he have the courage to confront whatever truths lay ahead? As dawn broke the following morning, Ethan awoke with a sense of purpose unlike anything he'd experienced before. Sunlight streamed through his window, illuminating the clutter of notepads and training gear strewn across his bedroom, He'd taken the first steps toward becoming a trainer, and the documentation method had ignited a fire within him. But as he sat at his desk, staring at a blank page, he felt the familiar anxiety creeping back in, snaking into his thoughts. With a determined breath, he picked up a pencil and began jotting down ideas. Session 1. Cone course. Successful. He paused, the tip of the pencil pressing awkwardly against the paper. Yet he hesitated to delve deeper, unsure of how to articulate not just success but the turmoil inside, a conflict between excitement and crippling self-doubt. Ethan's mind drifted back to Ace, to the countless moments they had shared, both triumphant and questionable. The thought of documenting their journey prompted a revelation. Perhaps this wasn't just about expanding Ace's capabilities. It was also about his own growth, an exploration of the mind that could unravel the many layers of his insecurities. Keep it simple, he whispered to himself. So he sketched out objectives for the day. Focus on retrievals. Explore Ace's responses, and most importantly, observe his own reactions. He felt compelled to embrace this duality, the entrance into understanding both his partner and himself. After breakfast, Ethan stepped outside. The morning was cool, and the clouds were just beginning to scatter. "Okay, Ace. Retrievals today," he announced, the energy bubbling up once more. He filled the yard with previous markers, setting the stage for their intricate choreography of commands. Ace seemed to sense the shift in Ethan's attitude. He bounded around, enthusiasm radiating from his every bark. But as Ethan prepared to launch the first test, a green ball nestled into the grass. An unsettling thought flickered through his mind. What would happen if Ace faltered today? The internal debate persisted. Would it reflect on him as a trainer if his dog stumbled? Breathe, he coached himself, exhaling slowly. With the ball thrown, Ace sprinted away, effortlessly capturing it in mid-air, the thrill of success flooding Ethan's veins. Yet, he craved more than just performance from Ace. He longed for a deeper bond. They were a team, a duo, mapped by understanding rather than simple execution. As the lesson progressed, Ethan began noting Ace's signals, the way his body language shifted with uncertainty and eagerness. He recorded each detail meticulously, but with every insightful observation came an urge to reflect upon his own methods, a metaphorical mirror forcing him to confront his tendencies to control rather than collaborate. In a moment of vulnerability, he set aside the notepad. "I need to listen to you, don't I, buddy?" he murmured, a new canvas forming in his mind. The image of a partnership cemented by trust and acceptance took shape, and with it, a plan began to crystallize. Over the next few days, he would experiment with commands, allowing Ace more freedom to explore the tasks. Perhaps a balance needed to be struck, where discipline met the power of working together organically. Each practice would not only be about improving Ace's skills, but also about uncovering Ethan's own instinctual tendencies to chase perfection at the cost of connection. With each new decision, he felt a growing pressure to confront his previous standards. What if letting go led him to stumble as well? Yet in that moment of uncertainty, he also felt an exhilarating rush. For the first time, he was choosing to embrace imperfection. As the sun set on their third day of training, Ethan gazed at the notes scrawled across his pages, an evolving map chronicling their journey. But amid the triumph lay a growing sense of urgency. They might thrive in practice, but what if the outside world posed challenges that would unravel everything they had built? The idea left a pit in his stomach, a reminder that risk lived just beyond the boundaries of their safe space. Determined, Ethan decided that he needed to seek guidance from a professional trainer, someone experienced in the nuances he was still grappling with. The point of contact established a new ambition, the thought of reaching out prompting a never-felt-before courage surfacing within him. As he watched Ace chase a squirrel, his exuberance contrasted sharply with the weight of his decision. Fear mingled with stimulation. The idea of mentorship might not only bolster his confidence, but serve as a firm push off the cliff of self-doubt. He glanced at Ace, whose vibrant energy offered reassurance. Yet, doubt lurked over the horizon. Would a professional trainer simply expose more weaknesses? But what if this step was the breakthrough they both desperately needed? The question clung to him, demanding an answer. He had to face this new fear head-on. It was time to make that call, to approach someone who could help redefine the contours of his journey. But uncertainty loomed larger still. Would he find the courage to reach out and confront a professional who might not only elevate his training, but hold up a mirror to his own challenges? The tension crackled in the air as Ethan gripped his phone, the screen lighting up with the number of a local dog trainer whose expertise he felt could guide both him and Ace through uncharted waters. Today was crucial. It was the dawn of both opportunity and vulnerability. He had decided to step beyond the safety of his practices in the yard, recognizing that the true tests of their partnership awaited him. The thought of engaging with someone who could potentially rip apart the fabric of his already frail confidence was daunting. What if this new trainer pointed out all the flaws that he had labored to hide from himself? Each question swirled in his mind, taunting him with the potential of failure. Despite the weight of these worries, Ethan understood that growth could only stem from confronting his fears. Taking a deep breath, he dialed the number. The ringing echoed like the ticking of a clock, counting down to a significant change in his life. "Hello, this is Laura," a warm voice answered. "Hi, this is Ethan." Each syllable felt like a mountain he was climbing just to voice. "I'm interested in dog training lessons. For Ace and me." "Yes, I'd love to help you out. What kind of training are you looking for?" Laura's casual tone fueled a fragile spark of confidence within him. "I want to deepen the connection we have, you know. But I also want to ensure I'm not doing anything that will hold him back," he explained, his voice gathering strength with each word. "That's a great goal," Laura responded appreciatively. "Working on bonds and trust is central to successful training. Let's set up a lesson to assess where you both stand and build from there." As they arranged a meeting for later in the week, a flutter of exhilaration mixed with anxiety settled in Ethan's stomach. This was more than just an appointment. It represented a tangible step towards becoming the person he desired to be, a trainer worthy of Ace's trust. Each interaction reinforced the foundation of progress, a melody of growth playing softly in the background of his thoughts. As the days trickled by, Ethan immersed himself in training sessions, craving interaction with Ace as they pushed boundaries and explored the limits of their understanding of one another. Each successful retrieval further cemented their partnership, allowing Ethan to recognize that his previously wavering confidence began to outshine the shadows of doubt. Ultimately, he arrived at the lesson with Laura, nerves igniting his senses. The training center buzzed with activity, dogs weaving through obstacle courses, handlers instructing with commands that rang with authority and warmth. It felt overwhelming yet invigorating. In amidst the whirlwind, Ethan perceived his fears slowly dissipating. He was not alone in this journey. "Hey there," Laura greeted as he stepped in. "Excited to see what you and Ace can do together." Her enthusiasm invigorated him as his self-doubt shrank against the kindness of her presence. They commenced with basic retrieval exercises, and Ace responded energetically, demonstrating an impressive prowess that filled Ethan with pride. Yet, as they transitioned to more complex challenges, he sensed a familiar twinge ready to emerge: the fear of inadequacy. "What are some of any concerns you have?" Laura prompted, further unraveling Ethan's complexity. "I often worry I'm not doing enough or that my approach is wrong," Ethan admitted, vulnerability blooming as he opened up. "At times I feel like I'm not fit to train him." Laura nodded knowingly. "It's normal to feel that way, especially as you're stepping into this realm. Remember, it's about learning together. Everyone has strengths and areas to improve on. Accepting that opens the door for growth." Her words penetrated the fog of doubt, a revelation washing over him. The beauty of training wasn't solely in flawless execution, but in the relationship fostered between handler and dog. It was a dance where both embraced mistakes, celebrated small victories, and learned from each other along the way. As they delved deeper, Ethan began to witness the shift in Ace, his confidence blossoming as they engaged in new challenges and enriched their bond through the process. No longer fixated solely on achieving a perfect task, they focused on the emotional connection underlying every command. Before long, they were navigating agility courses together, Ace weaving through obstacles while Ethan instructed with newfound ease. With each successful pass, he felt a profound liberation unfurling within him. His fears didn't define him. They merely served as stepping stones toward revelation and growth. Days melted into weeks as this collaborative journey redefined Ethan's relationship with Ace, revealing the underlying beauty of their partnership. They grew in tandem, meeting each challenge with shared trust and openness, erasing the barriers of Ethan's previous insecurities. As the months flowed on, external validation began to emerge as well. Word spread about their progress, and local trainers took note of Ethan's dedication. He soon received an invitation to collaborate on community training sessions, offering insights gained through this experimentation with Ace. Ethan stood before the gathering, Ace resting beside him, radiating both confidence and gratitude. He spoke, and each word reflected not only his achievements but also the lessons embedded in every stumble. Remember, the process is what brings us together. Each moment has value, and each challenge is an opportunity. By the end of the session, he was met with enthusiastic encouragement, a warmth enveloping him as the audience expressed admiration for his growth and the connection he demonstrated with Ace. For the first time, he fully embraced his journey, no longer judging himself against the brilliance of his brothers Jake or the expectations others had placed upon him. Ethan had transformed. He was not defined by comparison. He was a capable individual, recognized for both his authenticity and growing competence. The culmination of this journey fostered not only trust among the dog community, but also a deeper connection with his family. They too began to see him in a new light, acknowledging his achievements and growth, a truly enriching experience for them all. Finally, standing tall with Ace at his side, Ethan experienced a profound sense of pride. The echoes of expectation transformed into affirmations of self-worth. He was not just the brother in the shadows anymore. He had carved a space defined by purpose and fulfillment. This was the moment he had so desperately sought, an acceptance of himself grounded in the love forged through trust with Ace. Now, as the sunlight bathed them in a golden embrace, Ethan realized that, alongside Ace, an uncharted world of connection and camaraderie lay ahead, ready for exploration. Do you see how transformative Ethan's journey was? You need to subscribe now to witness more stories of personal victory and transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread these powerful messages. Comment your thoughts, responses, and theories about Ethan's journey and what it means for you. And remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who could use a dose of inspiration in their own journeys. Don't wait even one more second to show your support.